Hello, you're listening to From the Clay to Zama. I'm your host, Karen Miller. This podcast is about the adventures and travels of two women from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, who work for the U.S. Army at Zama, Japan. Their stories are told through hundreds of letters written home. Episode 19, Japanesy. Before I get started on the letters for this episode, I want to tell you a little bit about the word Zama. One of my friends, who I think is very smart, recently commented on the title of the podcast and asked if my podcast was about the Battle of Zama. And I kind of had to give him a blank stare. And then he asked, I said, no, it's about this military camp that was the Emperor's West Point in Japan before World War II. And then my aunts were stationed there in the 1950s during the Korean War. So he said, well, I wonder if they named it. You know, we kind of got to if there was a name connection. So I, let the research begin. I had only a passing familiarity with Hannibal, probably from looking him up during Silence of the Lambs. And I really didn't know anything about the Punic Wars other than they existed. So the Punic Wars were a series of battles that occurred between 264 and 146 BC between the Romans and the Carthaginians, ending up at the end with Carthage being destroyed. The Battle of Zama not only ended the Second Punic War, but it also established the Roman army as the greatest fighting force since the armies of Alexander the Great. After this, the Romans would go on to conquer the known world. Zama, then, was not only the end of the Second Punic War, but the beginning of effective campaigns of conquest. So, how does this connect to our Camp Zama? The battle occurred in what is now modern-day Tunisia, but was called Zama in ancient times. It turns out that the city of Zama, or town, it was originally a stop on a trading highway, was called Izama in Japan. And then it was shortened just to Zama. But the area has been populated since prehistoric times. I couldn't find out definitively that there's no connection, but it doesn't appear that there is one. The current population is over 131,000 people. It is 31 miles from Tokyo and 12 miles from Yokohama. The average high in August is 77 degrees, and the average low in January is 37 degrees. In Hebrew, the word Zama means song, and in Arabic, it means thirst. So, in Japanese, it means mess or bad situation. Besides the military camp being there, the area is known for growing beautiful sunflowers and having sunflower festivals. So let's get started with letter 51 from Bern, dated the 11th of November. Dearest Mama-san and Papa-san, some of these older Japanese men and women are indeed kind and gracious enough to remind me of you two. Not many of them, but a few. Guess what? My Christmas shopping is finished. Isn't that extraordinarily good for me? Of course, the fact that Saturday is the deadline to mail packages might account for it. Today, being a holiday, Peg and I went to Yokohama and completely finished, except for our gifts to each other, but I know what I'm getting her, so that won't be a problem. Now, Helen-san, in this box, which will be mailed either November 13th or 14th, there are a few problems for you to deal with. The box contains gifts for people other than family. Irma and Esther's will have to be mailed. If you are busy and can't take care of it before Christmas, don't fret. Irma and I have yet to exchange gifts on the correct day, so don't break our record. All the other gifts are for local people. Here's a brief outline of what to expect. The boxes have the names written on them somewhere, but you might have to look for them. Miriam gets 4 separate packages. Isabel has 2, and Mrs. Shop has 2. The paper in which Elva's gift is wrapped is very soiled. If you have time, please rewrap it. Peggy has included 1 package each for Sally and Steve Freilich. Please notify Ethel and prepare to get your ear bent. I believe that's all the instructions. Thanks a million for being our distributor. Here's the money order, Johnson, which I mentioned in my last letter. I held that mail open but we didn't get paid on time. And I had so many other pictures and clippings that I thought you might think it got lost. So here it is. Also, there are a few miscellaneous clippings, which struck my fancy for one reason or another. The classified ad page fascinates me because it covers such a different range and scope of items than our good old Pennsylvania papers. The item on Culture Day is just to remind you of how very different people are here. Americans, although quite a few manage to be quite intellectual, usually think any emphasis on culture is sissified and not to be advertised. The trend here, of course, is towards scholarship and the arts. It's really strange how many times this difference in thinking crops up. Our friend Vi Domenecki leaves tomorrow night by plane for a vacation to Hong Kong and Bangkok, Siam. Doesn't that sound perfectly fabulous? People around here are always going or coming from faraway places, and I keep hinting for and getting invitations to see their pictures. It's a form of amusement which never fails to intrigue me. Did we perhaps have some gypsies among our ancestors? What about this unseasonable weather you are having? Last weekend, I went to a football game with just a skirt and corduroy jacket. The next day, Stars and Stripes gave all the statistics about the snow that you got. I do hope that you guys, the golf pro Mark Son is always using that term, and I'm picking it up from him, were prepared for the bad weather and did not catch cold or get caught out in it. Better not use the car on snowy roads, Daddy. Who do I sound like now? You didn't mention anything in your recent letters about the Pennsylvania National Horse Show. I thought about it quite a few times, and I have a ticket for the Japanese horse show in Tokyo next weekend. One of the girls in special services whom I know will be riding in it, and I really like to go. But there are several other tentative plans in the offing, so as I'm writing this, I don't know where I'll be next weekend. Last Sunday, the present chaplain, Protestant, preached his farewell sermon. He is moving to Korea. I'm looking forward to hearing the new man, and I'm hoping indeed that his sermons have a little more to offer than the formers. Time will tell. Helen, I've been very interested in hearing about your seminarian. If you want to, you may lend him my Peter Marshall books. Just emphasize that they are to be returned. I could certainly use a Peter Marshall over here. Chaplains, yes. Preachers, no. We haven't done anything really Japanese lately, so there ain't much news to tell. I shared the jelly and apple butter with Seaman and Mrs. Jones, who have entertained me several times. They both said, good. Without a doubt, you are the world's best cook. Good night, all. Much love, Bern. P.S. We do have heat in the billets. Our rooms are warm and toasty. Haven't yet had to wear my winter coat. Soon, though. And then I would just tell you can see pictures of the documents she included on the website if you're interested. Letter 52, Peg, the 12th of November, 1953. Dear Mama-san and Papa-san, first of all, business. Yesterday, Bern and I went to Yokohama to finish up our Christmas shopping, and I felt like buying something, so I bought a doll for Sally Freybeck and one of those hideous jackets for Stevie. Bern is sending the rest of her presents for people to you, and she'll probably write and tell you what to do with them. But will you please call Ethel sometime around Christmas and ask her to stop by for the kids' gifts? Or if you want, I'm sure they will be more than delighted if you would pay them a visit and deliver them. Papa-san, P.S. They also have a television. You remember the Army lieutenant I met in Tokyo, the one then I went in to meet him in Yokohama the next night? Well, he just called me from Korea. Gad, what a bore. He's coming over and he wants me to go skiing with him when he's on R&R, which means rest and relaxation. I'll have to do some fast talking to get out of that one because I had half promised him I would. Oh well, he won't be here for 4 months. I can figure it out. So to get back to business, I'm in the process of getting my Christmas cards addressed and would like you to send me the following addresses. Sarah Jane, Bill and Janice, Paul and Cherie, Aunt Edna, Uncle Bill, Reverend Stamets, and Taylor. I think that will just about do it. The Marine's birthday party was just lovely. Most of the girls wore formal dresses. And although there weren't too many girls in comparison with all the fellas, it was a very pretty sight. I got quite a few compliments from people, and the dog remarked more than once how pretty I looked. They had the largest buffet supper I've ever seen. Of course, I almost went out of my mind seeing all that delicious food and took more than I could eat, but I just couldn't resist. I would fill 3 sides of the paper if I told you all about the food they had. So just take my word for it, there was a lot. They also had a huge decorated birthday cake, which was brought out on the floor by an honor guard. They did some sort of drill, and Admiral somebody made a little speech and cut the first slice. Then they sang the Marines' hymn, which I also sang just as loud as they did. After that, there was a floor show and dancing. I had a most wonderful time, and Red Dog is so nice. Now I'm thinking about buying another formal for the holidays, but it would be just like me to buy one and then not get invited anywhere. The new job is going along okay, but I'd sooner work for the colonel. At least I had time to write an occasional letter back there, and now all I do is type. I did a big report today, and when it was finished, Lieutenant Israeloff said, "Very nice. I think I'll make you permanent up here." I said, "That's what you think." He seemed surprised that I didn't turn handsprings over his offer. So I just told him that I didn't mind helping out, but it certainly wasn't the kind of job I preferred. So I guess I took him down a peg or two. I hope so, because he expects me to know everything about the job just as much as Ann did. And I just don't. But I imagine his nerves are bad from walking the baby half the night. In fact, he now looks forward to being the duty officer when he has to stay in the section all night and sleep on a cot. We decided to call you after all. I don't know exactly where we'll be on Christmas or how long it takes to place a call like that. But I guess we'll call you sometime during the holiday season, unless we're too homesick. We'll let you know more about it when we know our own plans. I just love to call you unexpectedly, but I'm afraid one or the other of you wouldn't be there, and that would never do. How did you manage to dig out of the storm? I'm waiting anxiously to hear about it. Mr. Brown, the warrant officer in my office, who was stationed at the Gap during the war, just beams whenever we talk about Harrisburg because he loved it so much there. Is everybody getting ready for the holidays? Are you going to have a turkey? Every place over here puts sage in the filling. Can you imagine? Love, Peggy-san. P.S. Did Blondie go out in the snow? Letter 53 from Peg, dated 16th of November, 1953. Dearest Mother and Daddy, got your most interesting letter telling us about the snowstorm. I showed the pictures to Mr. Brown, and I'll just tell you he almost had a fit. Then we had to discuss good old Harrisburg for about 10 minutes. I get such a charge out of him. I had a lovely weekend. Friday night, Bern and I went up to the club to eat and stayed for a while, but things were pretty dull, so we came home early. Saturday morning, we decided to go to Tokyo. On the way into Yokohama to get the train, we decided that we didn't want to go to Tokyo after all. So we stayed in Yoko. First, we went to Naramachi Street and started buying some of the things we wanted to bring home with us. I bought 2 scatter pins with earrings to match and a pair of fish earrings. Bern bought a necklace. I also bought a perfume bottle to match the cigarette lighter case and cigarette holder that Red Dog bought me. Then we went to Mikamoto's store, and they sell what is considered Japan's best pearls. Being the characters that we are, we each bought a pearl ring, although we had absolutely no intention of buying them. We didn't have enough yen to pay for them, so we put a deposit down, and we'll get them back out on Thursday. Then we went to the PX, and I bought a pair of Zori, the slippers with a thong in the middle, like we sent to Nancy. I just love them. I'm going to bring home about 12 pairs. Well, by that time, we were almost broke, so we decided to, oh no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Then we went to see From Here to Eternity in a Japanese theater. Daddy, you remember that you read the book? Well, when in the movie the attack on Pearl Harbor started, I thought that maybe we'd be thrown out of the theater on our ears, but nothing happened. Do you remember the part where Drew's at his girlfriend's house and he hears the news of the attack on the radio? He feels that he must get back to his company, and she wants to know why. His reply was, because I belong to the best army in the world. You should have heard the muttered undertones from the other patrons in the theater at that point. They didn't like that at all. Isn't it a crazy world? First we fight them, and then we sit in a movie theater with them and watch a picture like that together. It doesn't make much sense, does it? After that, we were broke, decided to go to the 45 for a hamburger. We ate slowly so that our money wouldn't give out until the music started, and we made it. We danced about every dance and had a really good time. Sunday morning, the telephone rang at 9 o'clock, and I just rolled over and was almost asleep again when someone hollered that it was for me. It was the dog, and he said he was sorry to get me out of bed, but that was the only time he could get in touch with me, as he had been trying to call me for 2 days. So at 2 o'clock, he came puttering up the drive in a Jeep, and we took off for the football game over at Atsuki. Atsuki played Yokohama, which are both Navy bases. It was a really good game. Atsugi won 18-13. Then we went to the club and had a delicious buffet supper and danced. It was a really nice weekend. Bern went to the game with some dependents she knows and went to one of their houses for a home-cooked meal. Lucky girl. Mother, if it's okay with you, I think I'm going to give Yamaguchi my cobbler's apron along with some stockings for Christmas. I think she'll like it, and I'll just bet that every maid in the billet will be wearing one in no time. However, if you'd rather I keep it, don't hesitate to tell me, and I will get her something else. She's a little jewel, in fact. The more I hear how stupid some of the maids are, the more I appreciate her. I can hardly wait for the boxes to arrive. But don't you dare open the one that Anne Engel is bringing. Now I mean it. It was bad enough that you opened the other boxes, although we knew you would. It sure sounds like you people are having fun. Every letter is just full of where you've been, who you've seen, and what you've done. I bet you don't even give us a passing thought. Just kidding. But you couldn't possibly miss us more than we miss you. And to be absolutely honest, all that good food. One of our neighbors is going home the 27th of this month, and she said she's going to do nothing but eat for the first week. I'm very bored with my job and had just better not decide to stay home because I won't take the job even if they want me to. Colonel Van Tool was in Korea last week, so I went back to see him today, and I made a big fuss over him, and he just beamed. Gee, I wish you could know him, you especially, Daddy, because he'd beat us the ears off each other. Today I told him that his last month's report was the best of any in the rest of the divisions, and he said, now, Peg, I'm the one who gets away with slinging the bull around here. And I said, I know that, Colonel, but I'm just taking lessons from you. He hollered and laughed. He's a grand man. I got a letter from Teen today, and she said she was feeling pretty low down and would give anything for a fling into Yokohama with me. So I guess the excitement of being home is worn off for her, which only goes to prove my favorite saying, people are never satisfied. We have to take some booster shots on Wednesday. Everyone who had shots after May 15th is exempt. And wouldn't you know it, ours are dated the 11th of May. Oh well, I don't think I'll mind these as much. I have a new beau, a papasan who cleans our office, very slyly put a bouquet of flowers on my desk one day last week, and Lieutenant Israeloff said that he brought another bunch on Saturday, but didn't leave them when he saw I wasn't there. Today he polished a little figure on Anne's desk until the brass almost wore off. Lieutenant Israeloff thinks it's pretty serious because he didn't do things like that before. He's just the cutest little old man. He and I grin at each other and bow to each other when we pass in the hall. Most of the people just ignore the workers, the Japanese workers, but I think they're grand, and that's why I smile and interact with them. Did the bank get my allotment yet? Gee, I'm really broke. It doesn't bother me the least, but it doesn't bother me because payday's Wednesday. My dressmaker was just here with the 2 dresses, and they're just fine. I'm very pleased. She makes everything from just a picture, too. She only charged me 3,200 yen for both of them. Well, that's about it for now. Oh, P.S. The weather has turned horrible. It's cold, damp, and raining now. Love and kisses, Peggy-san. P.S. Tell Grandpa I said hello, and I will write to him soon. So, at Peg's mention of a cobbler's apron, I looked up the picture and realized I had one from Peg. The one that I got, I've had since my kids were little. I think that one of my daughters used to use it for dress up all the time. It has had pink polka dots on it. It is the kind of apron that you slip over your head and then tie on the left and the right side. And that's the kind that they always wore. I didn't know that Helen probably made all those aprons that we used to wear when I was growing up. It's quite practical, and I wear it when I'm baking still sometimes because I'm a pretty messy baker. Lieutenant Israeloff, Peg's new boss in these letters, I think he's actually Anne's boss, but Anne's on an extended leave to the United States, had quite a career, so I looked him up. By 1965, he was a major, and when he retired, he was, in 1976, he was a colonel. He spoke in a press release after Lyndon Johnson died about how Johnson's hospital suite in a Texas hospital was going to be used for injured Vietnam soldiers and their families. He was the author of a military history project, and he passed away in 2014. I hope you're enjoying the podcast, and if you are, please subscribe in Spotify. On Apple Podcasts, hit the plus button in the top right-hand corner and rate the episode. This will help my listeners find my podcast more easily. You can access the show's website at www.FromMcClayToZama.com, where I have posted photos from each episode. The podcast is now available on iHeartRadio, Pandora, Patreon, and Amazon Music, as well as Spotify. The next episode is the final episode of Season 1, The Three Companions of Man. You will hear letters 54 to 57. I hope you have a great week.